right, everybody. I guess it's going to be evening when you're probably watching this, unless it's the VOD, and then you can be watching it during breakfast in the morning. And start your morning off with Babe and Brendan and some educational talk, I guess, this time. So, first off, thank you, Babe, for once again joining us on one of these interesting events.
Thank you. It's always fun to do.
A little preemptive here. We've been for the last hour and a half trying to get
Yeah.
this trying to get this going with the internet issues and whatnot. So we're trying something a little different with this recording here. As you can see, it probably looks a little different, and yeah, but we're here. That's all that matters.
Okay. So before we actually get into the subject
Yes,
at hand,
yes.
we got to figure out who's going to be underwater IT,
Yes.
and there's going to have to be cable men who are commercial divers.
Okay. Why's that?
Okay. Well, to fix the cable system.
Whatever. Who's gonna have cable? We're all going to stream and everything over the internet.
I hope so.
Anyway, what's been going on with you?
Oh, just work, but going for a dive tomorrow. Tomorrow, can't wait.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of dives, when we're recording this morning was the end of the Project Project Neptune, sorry, 100. So that finished up this morning. I hope if you didn't catch that live, the VOD is out there on the MRDF YouTube channel. And I mean, it may be on Jules and stuff like that. But so yeah, it was very cool. Very, very groundbreaking.
Yes. And well, probably by the time you see this, it'll be almost too late. But I am disappointed because I honestly did not know, like the shirts that they all wear, those blue with
Yes, I saw that too.
Until today, I did not know we can get one of those shirts.
Yeah, I saw there's on the website or something like that. You could buy them.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like I've looked for them, and it's like, okay, I guess they didn't have them, and then today all of a sudden you can buy them, and it's like, did it just happen today, or
Did you order one?
I did?
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Also, segueing a little bit, not to throw that under the carpet or anything, but I think we are very close to you getting your hands on one of the 3D models via the emails I've been having. So that should be very shortly here. So we finally, I think, worked all that out. I think we've got a clear path on that happening now. So
excellent.
Yeah, so that should be coming shortly. But what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about ROVs.
Yes.
And I usually read over all the notes and stuff like that, so I kind of have an idea what's going on. But I purposely didn't do it this time so that it would be new to me, because it's an area that, even though I think it's interesting, I don't know that much about. So with that being said, take it away, babe.
All right. So ROVs, so a remotely operated vehicle. And these things have been around for a long time because if you'll remember when we were talking about, wow, I just completely lost Sea Labs. So when we were talking about Sea Labs, they actually used an ROV to help keep track of the divers, and of course, there's a little bit of experimentation with it too. So they also had Tuffy the dolphin doing the same thing, but they used an ROV then too, which that's you don't see that very often from something from the 60s. That's pretty amazing as far as what it is. So again, with this subject, I had no clue what I was delving into. No clue at all. Boy, did I learn. And it's such a huge subject. There's just no way to get it all. So instead of getting all these real specific details, I'm going to get into these basic areas of what the ROVs are. And then with today's technology, you got your AUVs, so your automated underwater vehicles. They're a drone. They're an underwater drone. And so with ROVs, remotely operated, it's a remote control. Someone is operating that unit. And the movie The Abyss uses, there's Big Geek and Little Geek and The Abyss, uh, because that's kind of where I thought we were going with it. Wow, was I wrong? So there are ROVs. They're enormous. Uh, they're huge because they're used for work. And there's these big cutting ROVs that commercial divers use. So they'd rather do it in person because it's just, people manipulate things better as far as the human aspect. But if they need help, or if it's a safety issue, they send these ROVs in, and they got different forms of them. They have different forms of cutting. The one that fascinated me the most was it's a diamond wire, and they thread this wire onto this thing, and then they turn it on, and it'll cut through anything. One of the reference things I had was it's these big pier steel, concrete filled steel pipe, and when I say big, I mean big. But it shows a diver hooking up the wire system to each one of those, and then it would just cut right through it, and then they'd pull them up out of the water and stack them out of the way. So
when you say big, how big are we actually talking here?
Oh, okay. So I mean, the first thing that always came to my mind was, do you remember the submarine Alvin? Like, so much research was done out of Alvin.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time I saw this one ROV, I thought it was Alvin, or a submarine just like it, and I was like, and then it hit me, that's how big it is. They're big. They're bigger than a lot of cars, even the size of a large pickup or something. And then you've got the real small ones. You got everything from palm size to these things that are the size of a big pickup truck or something.
Very cool. So let's backtrack a little bit. What made you want to focus on ROVs? What was it about ROVs that you said, hey, let's do an episode on this? I mean, obviously I've got my answers for why I'm interested in this, but why did you want to tackle this?
As far as underwater, what kid didn't like a remote control toy growing up, right? So you think, and then I know we've talked about in the past too about having an online thing where you could remotely, you're sitting in Oklahoma and you can control an ROV that's off the coast of Florida somewhere,
Yeah.
So that's just cool. So obviously when you're talking underwater stuff, you want some way to either deliver things, inspect things. So yeah, inspect things. Well, that's the gist of it, but it's also a toy.
Yeah.
You can go out and play. You really can.
Right. And there was a website. There may have been more than one. I couldn't find it again after I saw it on, I can't remember, I think it was a YouTube channel I was watching. And there was a site you could go out there and you could pay money and you could control an ROV. It's basically all it was a webcam, basically ROV. And you could go around like some reefs and stuff along those lines. And this was a couple of years ago. Because I was thinking, man, you could theoretically make a lot of money just by having that. If you had a couple ROVs out there hooked to the web and people can control them for like, what, a couple bucks an hour or whatever like that, you pay for yourself in no time. And it lets people have that freedom to control it.
Yeah.
But to your point, the need for ROVs, and to an extent the AUVs as well, when it comes to, I think we'll talk about this a little later as far as how it affects underwater habitats, and that future that's going to be coming is where do they play a role in that? I noticed on your notes, I don't want to skip too far ahead of what you're talking about and stuff like that, but we'll get into like ocean builders and stuff and other businesses that have seen the value of the ROV AUV environment and in a recreational manner, but as well as they're like ocean builders, for example, are using it for a business aspect too. So I don't know if we want to get into that yet or not, but go ahead.
All right. Well, Yeah, I was just going to go to the fact where I was saying for an aspect for underwater thing, it's the same for commercial diving. Where they can, it's a lot of times it's cheaper to send a smaller inspection unit just with a decent camera on it to go inspect something rather than send a person, unless it's something that needs an eyes on thing, then they're going to send a person. Um, so inspecting, it's a lot of the same uses that commercial divers are for using it for now can be transferred over to something for an underwater habitat system, because just like, I mean, you got to repair your house here. it's, it's not going to be any different.
Right.
You're going to have someone come and repair it. So uh, that's going to be one of the tools. That's today's world. They got that technology. It's awesome to use it that way.
Yeah, because I mean, you
So
have to clean windows and stuff like that, and that's going to be a
yeah,
regular job, which you could hire somebody to do that. But once again, it's one of those things where so many things in today's society here on land and stuff like that is getting replaced by robots and
yeah,
automated tellers and all this kind of stuff. Same thing underwater. If you can cut that workforce by putting it into a robot's hands, why wouldn't you? It's
yeah,
a safety thing as well as a cost thing.
yeah. It is, and it's. I have a pool, and it's an in-ground pool, and my wife bought me for our anniversary a few years ago, and I named it Big Geek after the abyss. But it climbs the walls and cleans the walls. So to me, I always looked at that as the same idea. You know, you have some little automated thing to just run it on your windows,
Yeah,
and you're cleaning your windows with, and so that would be an AUV. It's just a predetermined programming, and it just does the job. It
yeah.
it doesn't need any extra but to turn on and off, and maybe a cleaning or a service itself, every now and then.
It's just like your modern day Roombas or whatever you have cleaning your floors. It'd be the same thing, just
Yeah,
outside
yep,
underwater.
exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. I definitely see that. Yeah, and well, go ahead. I won't get too far ahead. So what do you have next here?
All right, so that touches on that, and automate autonomous underwater vehicle. I'm sorry, that's an AUV, so a drone. Um, and it's again, it's a vehicle that's going to follow a pre-programmed or something that has set up parameters to to do a job. So whether it's it's a tag that it pings off of, and knows it's there. So just like you're saying, your Roomba, it learns where your walls are, so it knows, or your furniture, and it works around it. So uh, that's an automated vehicle. So that's just the differences of them. And then I'm going back to ROVs because where I touched on inspections. So your commercial divers, they use ROVs instead of sending 2 or 3 divers down to do one job, when one of those divers is only there to watch the other one for safety reasons. So it's easier just to drop an ROV in there, and they just watch
Yeah,
everything. And um, if you haven't seen footage, some of the coolest footage comes from those things for a commercial diver. So
yeah,
the big sea turtle that is like trying to molest the diver, and he's like pushing it away, and the swordfish that comes and
yep,
stabs into the tubing, his tether line. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff though. we get the advantage of that, but that's what's doing that. It's an ROV filming that stuff. Um, and I'm just going through my notes. I'm sorry to cause a. Oh yeah, and they have arms, blades, different cutting, uh, and again, there's so many different kinds and types. And I'm talking the older ones, and now the new ones. It's even amazing because now you can get smaller units. They've got claws that you can attach, cutting tools to them, and it depends on. You're still talking weight and leverage. So in water you can't get leverage. So that's why the bigger ones are the advantage for a lot of those things, because you have to have that weight for the leverage.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things when I got thinking about it is, the question always is well, is ROVs, AUVs going to replace the need for humans to explore the ocean and explore all these type of things too? That's always seems to be a concern I hear a lot. But you look at Titanic. Had it not been, sure, we used sonar, we used all this time to find it, and you could have sent an ROV down there, but man, having your own eyes on something like that, there's nothing ever going to replace that, whether it's VR, whatever, being there, physically seeing it. Now, once you've seen it, then you can send those ROVs in and do all the work of mapping it out and exploring and stuff along those lines. But as long as we can, there's always going to be that desire for you to see something with your own physical eyes in person. I don't think you're ever going to be able to replace that. So I see the ROVs as, yes, they'll probably take over a lot of what we currently do or have been doing, but it'll just be another tool in the Swiss Army knife of what we have to explore the oceans in whatever format.
Well, and it's such a growing area. I get it's still part of the blue economy thing. It's such a growing area right now that we still got to learn what we're going to be adapting to that.
Yeah.
So, and what you were saying about the mapping and stuff, there's so many different ROVs, surface and underwater ones now that's all they're doing is mapping. That's all they're doing. Usually governments, research places or whatever, but they're just sending them out and mapping our oceans.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, you talk about the blue economy. It's not only the mapping is going to be a huge part of it, and you could have thousands of them out there doing that. But also, as we're starting to work more, and you're seeing more and more stuff come about fishing, the industry and stuff like that, of monitoring your fish, ROVs. That I mean, you can almost equate it to, back in the day, you had your sheepdog to herd the sheep and stuff along those lines. Well, you have underwater ROV to herd, whatever marine life you may be focused on or working on or something along those lines too. The possibilities are endless, especially as AI gets better for your AUVs to be able to do this without the need for human interaction as well. Then it's just, it kind of changes the thing when you've got an AUV that can just, hey, go check out this. There might be a wreck here. Go find it and do all that kind of stuff. And then you can send a guy down to put eyes on it and be like, cool. Yeah.
Of course, the AUVs or the ROV, but in that case, the AUV can see if it's safe enough for a person to be there. That's you can save that life or injury that way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to. You talked about the deep sea diving stuff like that. A lot of it is a depth issue too. I mean, we can only go so deep. I mean, we technically go as deep as we want out in a sub or a submersible and along those lines. But to actually get out there and do any kind of repairs or to do any kind of maintenance, there is a limitation on how deep man can go. So there is a need for them in that standpoint where they do replace human just because of limitations of our fragile bodies.
Yes, and I know I've talked about it before, but the commercial diving podcasts that I listened to, and now I wish I'd gone back and listened to that again to remember the details of it. That's actually one of the things they talked about is sending the ROVs out to. The one was about cutting, and the other one was just that because it was for saturation divers. And the guy was saying we're deep, and it was so deep that it was always a toss up: are we going to send a diver or are we going to send an ROV? So they would weigh out every single thing about that job site for safety issues, and then decide can an ROV sufficiently do that, or do we need to send a person?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm sure there's a tactile difference too right now as us having our fingers and be able to grab something and feel it along those lines. But that's going to be an issue that's going to be negated here in the very near future with VR and AR becoming more and more prevalent in the mapping of and what's going on with that. We always talk about Sequest, but they had a hyper reality probe, and they basically did that. They put on an AR headset with gloves they could feel, and then they could control it and do all kind of stuff in there. So even though that's sci-fi, that is where these is going, and that we won't have a joystick and claws to grab onto. You'll have gloves, and you'll actually be able to manipulate. And at that point in time, the need for those deep sea divers does decrease a lot, because you're able to do everything and safely from one atmosphere sitting in air conditioning.
Yes. I know the place that can probably provide something for them to be sitting in when they do that too.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you
right.
can be underwater.
Yeah. So that actually, I'm gonna use that as a segue, because the one of the new ROVs is called the Aquanaut, and it is bigger than human size, because it's a transformer. That's what it is, and it's really cool. If you go and YouTube it or look online for it, it's actually really cool, because the way it's made is it folds down into a streamlined ROV for going long distances. So it's don't have that bulk of big flat surfaces and those arms sticking out that are going to cause drag in the water. So you're not wasting energy that way. And then when it gets to its job site or whatever, then it unfolds, it brings out its arms, and its head comes up with the big cameras, and it looks like some kind of a cyborg, half ROV, half human in its own way.
Very cool.
But it's got basically hands. The version they showed had something closer to a human hand than just your claw appendage. That so many ROVs have, and so the modern what we can do now with them, instead of these big bulky, like I said, dragging, with all the drag, the water drag, the energy reducer, because again, with an ROV or with an AUV, what's your power source? You got to have power. So battery, or is it going to be constantly hooked to a tether to constantly feed it power?
True.
And so my understanding of the Aquanaut is both. It can be tethered up until it can't, and then it'll run on battery. The power thing is a whole different subject, because
I can see, if you had enough of them out there, you could have like just little charging pads randomly placed around the ocean where they could just go and then charge up and keep on going type of thing, or come back to like a home type of. But once again, that's a little sci-fi-ish. But once again, that's kind of what we talk about a lot anyway. So
and I'm going to mention it now, because we did talk about we're going to be doing a sci-fi live stream again. So I'm actually looking forward, because I need to make notes from all this other stuff to remember to talk about, because it's like so much other areas in this world. You look at science fiction, go back and look at science fiction, and how much of it's true today. It's so much of it is spot on. So it's really neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So AUV, for the most part, this is not something that's controlled. And so my first impression I was reading about AUVs is, how are they navigating? How are they learning? So, is it just going to be some kind of laser measurement or something? So what they've come up, there's a couple different companies come up with some different things. One of them is a series of lights that they use underwater that can see each other. The lights do. And through that light system, they say they've got information feed as fast as Wi-Fi.
Underwater?
That's what they said. Yeah. That's
I wonder what they're using then.
Well, that's because obviously it isn't the same spectrum of light we're seeing.
Yeah. It must be some sort of laser or something along those lines, but it'll penetrate the water is what's interesting.
Yeah, because that was my first thought is, crystal clear water, fine. Still, you've got different refraction, but then you change the density of the water, and now you're changing that anymore. So
And I wonder if it's
how
like
are they doing it?
certain things, because you get into like brackish water or so, like really heavy.
Right.
Is it still going to work? You know,
That's
interesting.
exactly.
That's something. Yeah.
But that's what they're claiming is they can get speeds, Wi-Fi speeds, by doing this. And it's just a series, and I suppose it would depend on the water how far apart these light systems are. But you just leave a trail, you know, it's the cookie crumb trail,
Yeah.
and
You have to have like repeaters or something like those lines, or yeah,
right, and then you can program or reprogram, or I guess it'd be an ROV too at that point if you can keep, you know, steady control of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's one version, which we've talked about that before, as far as getting information back and forth underwater. So is what they're doing now, is this one of the systems that's going to be, you know, if it works,
Yeah.
or is that going to be the underwater telephone? You know?
Yeah, because I talked to several different people over the past couple of years, businesses, and they were talking about the pros and the cons of what's out there and what's coming and that they knew about. And there's nothing like that. I mean, everything was like super slow speeds. If you wanted if you wanted to send data and stuff like that, or you had to be super close, and then penetrating that air water barrier was a big thing.
Right.
So either way, I could still see you have to have some kind of dangling down and sitting in the water from the shore that send the signal out. That's I mean, but yeah, if you can get Wi-Fi speeds underwater, especially at some kind of distance, that's going to be a thing. You know, if it's short,
it is.
Because I mean, if you're sitting at an underwater habitat, let's say 60 feet underwater, 2 atmosphere, something along those lines, that's going to be the thing. Versus having a cable dropping down, if you could just have a little thing sit, that's cool. Something to look into.
So we are half a continent from each other.
Yeah.
Are we? Is the underwater going to be able to do the same thing with just using something like that? You know.
I mean, I think you'd almost have to at that point in time. You have to start. I think you have to have repeaters and stuff along those. But
I definitely have to.
I mean, you have to have it with our internet right now. It goes through different repeaters.
Right.
So,
exactly.
But the fact that it's but once again, do you have repeater nodes? That, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting technology, and that's what we've been saying a long. Kind of segueing off of what we're talking about here a little bit, but the technology will grow and will come as organizations move to it. Like underwater habitats, there isn't tons of technology around it because it has been pushed. It's a tin can that gets stuck underwater and held down by weights. And you got hoses hooked to it. That's pretty much all it is. Yep. But as we put more and more of them under the water, technologies will start to adapt and evolve to make that life easier, cheaper, and better. And that's just how it is with everything, especially as people want it, because people want comfort. And so we have to, so the technologies will surround around that comfort and grow towards it. And this is just one of those examples of, hey, we need faster data for whatever it is. Well, this technology has been developed and is working towards that.
Yeah.
So very cool.
I know I've said it before, because here's my thing. How far advanced are military submarines right now?
Oh, yeah.
So, as that creeps into the civilian side of things, more and more of that can be used for underwater habitats. Yeah. It's not going to be that much of a step to go from that to a habitat.
No, and I just saw, talking about submarines, a report the other day that the U.S. has commissioned the designing of a new propulsion system to cut down any kind of cavitation or sound and stuff along those lines.
Yeah.
So, who knows what that's going to be? Yeah.
They talked about that for years in different ones. I mean, there's been movies about it and everything. Yep.
Anyway, back to ROVs and AUVs. So we talked a little bit about ocean builders and other organizations out there.
Yeah.
How are ROVs and AUVs being used in non-scientific life these days?
Okay, so everyone knows about Amazon delivery drones. So no different, which that's what your ocean builders have been talking about, doing that too. Be able to have deliveries, so your groceries, and the same thing underwater. It's just a matter of the right design for the job.
Sure.
And that's all it is. So you're going to have your grocery getter, whether it's from an underwater grocery store, or whether it has to go pick up groceries from an assigned dock somewhere. Uh, doesn't matter. It's the same idea. So your mail system. Well, people underwater are going to want to get mailed also. So, and you know what? Well, why? Because Amazon. Why else?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
You're going to order something, you want it delivered. So that's how you're going to get it. It's either that, or you're making a bunch of dives out, which I'm not against. But some days you want to break from anything. So that's just one. Ocean builders have talked about it. And I posted, I think it was in Discord there some months ago, about a life-saving
Mm-hmm.
AUV
Yep.
that is out there. It hits go or whatever, and that's what it's for. Of course, this one is a surface one.
Yeah.
I believe the Ocean Builders is a surface one also.
Yes.
Carries real basic first aid stuff on it. And then has the ability to hold a human, up on the surface of the water to keep from drowning. And I don't know, but it would seem to me if the person was capable, you should be able to hold on and have that pull them to a safe place, whether it's land, boat, whatever.
Right.
So you got your life-saving ones. So it's just your basic work things that are almost every day now.
Yeah. One of the things you're talking about there, so in all the years I've been designing, thinking, planning for underwater habitats, the mail delivery aspect was just never, the way I assumed it would work was you'd have daily or regular subs coming down to take people or whatever down the road. Yep. So I was like, and it would be part of that. But why? That's an awful lot of energy to bring a whole entire submersible down just to move maybe one person when it's in a bunch of mail and stuff like that, when you can have AUVs just coming and going all the time. That makes a whole lot more sense. I can definitely see that.
Yeah. And
very cool.
So part of that too is one of the other systems of what I was talking about earlier for navigation. And it is a company, and they are working on a sonar system that they are saying is as accurate or more accurate than GPS. And what it is based on tags of some kind. That's all I got from the short little article. Of course, they're not going to sit there and tell you what all their technology is. They're they're starting a company, but they have some sort of tag, and it's a tag system you put around in the areas, and so your AUVs ping off of those tags, and they know exactly where they're going, and they say it's, if you tell it to move 3 meters to the right from its position, it moves 3 meters to the right, because it's pinging. It knows where it's supposed to go.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's just another AUV system where automated. And that brings me to something which I'm not sure. I remember reading, and I think I talked about it one time before, and it was an underwater drone that would follow you and film you.
Yes. I do remember something about that.
Yeah. So my question is, how does it know to follow you? That's the only thing it always. Are you wearing some kind of a tag or something that it's actually following?
Yeah.
Or did they not mention in it you're supposed to wear a tether that ties you to it and it follows you?
Probably something to do with smartwatches and everything anymore. Probably an app or something along those lines. Probably.
Yeah.
But I can see some really cool videos coming out of that too.
Yeah, and I want to say it was called the iBubble or something like that. And now I've seen all kinds of versions of something similar to it. Some are drones, and some are ROVs, just the remote operated version of it. And then you've got Deep Trek or Deep Trekker. That's just another version, and they've got different size of little ROVs set up for different uses. And it's one of the many ones that I've seen that has attachable utensils, I guess is the easiest way to say it, because you can attach, again, cutting things,
Hmm.
clamps, pincers, whatever, grasps, um, really good camera systems to just a generic camera system. Uh, and so, and these things, the one, it's 6 inches round or whatever. It's just a tiny little thing with this camera eyeball sticking out of one, and it wouldn't look like it'd be very, very efficient, but it's it does the job really well. And just all it is an inspection type. So it's there to see things. Most of theirs are tethered, but the tether's the advantage of, if you run out of power, you can
Sure.
always
Yeah.
reel it in. You're not worried about it
Yeah.
losing the thing.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Anything else you want to throw at us then? Because I mean, already that's
Ah,
quite a lot of information, and it really gets you thinking about the
yes.
applications of where this is going. If people haven't already, 'cause it's one of those things where sure we know they exist and we see them out there and stuff like that, but how much time do we actually spend thinking about what they're doing and what they're going to be doing? One of the things, when I've been thinking about underwater habitats, is one of the things early on I thought about not having windows in the underwater habitats for the pressure aspect.
Yeah.
Cylinders be fine, and then you can have just giant screens and have ROVs outside that you controlled, and then you can set your own imagery based on those ROVs and stuff along those lines. But obviously, we need to have windows. But still, you can still incorporate in the idea of an ROV for each underwater habitat that you could do whatever. Like we talked earlier, you just control it and let it go around and look at the surrounding areas. And
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, talking about that though,
yeah,
that brings me, just like we're all using the Ring cameras on which I'm not, but I have my own security system. That's become so commonplace across the United States now, and I'm sure
yeah,
it's common in other places. It's the same thing. You can have little ROVs for a security system.
absolutely,
You know, it can be it can sit in one spot when you want it to, or it can take off and look at something
yep,
if you want it to. Um, so that, and we talked about cleaning things. So that's one of the notes I'd put on here is a janitor
yeah,
system.
yeah,
So because there's some areas of your habitat you will not want to be covered in coral.
yeah,
So having something to go through and clean that off, whether it's there's a water jet system that cleans a
mm-hmm,
lot of the bottoms of boats. You set up a little drone or ROV or something to do that, and you'll be cleaning it without a
yeah,
problem.
absolutely. Yeah, make sure those windows are clean and those quick release pins are good to go, and
That's right.
you're all good to go.
That's right.
But yeah, because you definitely want that view and some other critical things. But um, yeah, well, over the years I've had multiple people message, "Hey, are you looking for divers for work and stuff like that
Yep.
for ASC?" So we're not there yet. It's one of those things where I already know I'm in multiple different Facebook groups for divers,
Yeah.
commercial divers, and it seems like there's just not enough work, and
Yeah.
it concerns myself that this is making that system even worse. But it is kind of the state of the world right now, where everything is moving to autonomy and AI and
Yeah.
putting more and more people out of work, and it's not always a good thing. But at the same time, by us developing underwater habitats and building more ovaries, we're creating more places where people can be employed and working, whether it's at these for these ROV companies or for ASC as we get up and going. And so yes, there will always be. I can't say always, but for the foreseeable future, there'll be work.
Well, it's one of the podcasts I've talked about before, the downline.
Yeah.
One of their last episodes, that's one of the things they were talking about was jobs, and we keep alluding to the blue
Yeah.
economy, the blue initiative, and a couple of the people that were on there were part of some bigger commercial diver companies, and they all agreed that it's slow, but commercial diver jobs are increasing. There's more and more demand for it. Just it's a slow increase, but it is there.
Well, I mean, to an extent, once again, unless the ROVs and stuff take over, but as more and more people are moving towards the ocean, whether it's houseboats, whether it's companies like Ocean Builders and stuff along those lines, and they're putting more and more stuff, more and more maintenance has to be done, and more repairs need to be done. So that's where those divers come into play. So absolutely, that makes sense. So yeah, I can see that. Anyway,
and so many of those are going to. They're going to be again the fine skills of a human as opposed to something that an ROV will be able to do. To manipulate something that fine underwater for smaller spaces, I don't see an ROV be able to do. I just don't. It could happen, but many years from now, I'm sure.
When Elon and his Optimus robots get up and or run in, they'll be everywhere and they'll be doing it all anyway. So what does it matter?
And with his implant that just got approved, we'll be controlling it from our minds.
That's right.
Yep.
So, you got anything else to throw at him, or are we going to wrap her up here?
We can wrap it up. That's the end of my notes as far as everything. Just it was an overview because if you want to see. Like I said, it's a huge subject to dive into, and you will not be disappointed. You'll find all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And
we can always come back and do a more in-depth video on it's like a specific area of this too. If we wanted to focus just on like residential ROVs or something along those lines.
Yeah.
If people want to hear more about this, definitely comment, below or shoot us a message or whatever that you want to hear more about this, and we can do a more in-depth, longer video. I mean, this one already is going to be close to 45 minutes to an hour as it is just on an overview of what we're talking about. So, yeah, this could be once again, like your underwater habitats, it could be a multi-series video as well.
I foresee ROV fights because, someone's going to be flying their ROV over another habitat who's going to be mad that their ROV's there and they're going to attack it with their ROV.
It'd be like those, what was it, that show used to be on TV, the battle bots or whatever like that, but you have the ROV bots or whatever.
That's right. Need to start a TV show on just that.
Yeah. All right. Well, babe, thank you very much for doing the work on this and looking into this and educating yourself and now educating us a little bit too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
it's always a blast to do.
Yeah. So yeah, we I think the next live is obviously in 2 weeks. I think I don't remember. I think there's nothing scheduled. So I think what we're going to be talking about is the latter half of the year and what the plans are as far as for live streams and some hopeful interviews and just different stuff like that we're going to be trying to work on and help everybody can be involved. Maybe you and Adam do a couple more, get some more topics, some more pre-recorded ones like this. I think we still got plenty of underwater habitats to go over and do for you still. I know I've started posting now. I think I mentioned it before that I've made social media for like five or six per underwater habitat, and there's like 20 of them I did, and so that's getting scheduled out. I think that starts in July. July. I think it starts going out. So there'll be plenty of underwater habitat information coming out over the rest of the year, and so we'll see what else we can do about that. I'd still like to get on a trip down to Jules at some point in time. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you, babe, again. Thank you, everybody. You know where to find us, AtlanticSeaColony.com. All of our socials are on there. Follow us, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. That's where we post the most stuff. LinkedIn as well. Those are our big five. We're always putting out different like videos and stuff along those lines there. Different ways to help us out is obviously liking the content on there. The more you like, especially on YouTube, you're liking the stuff here, it gets out to people. More and more people get to see it. I've been trying to make more and more shorts and stuff like that because it seems to be getting some really good notoriety. It's been getting us some new followers from that. So working on more content for that. Also still working on the book. It's done for the most part, except for every time I try to upload it to Amazon, it says it's not long enough So I'm going to have to do some little things to change some stuff, but otherwise it's all pretty much done. So just trying to figure out how to get that thing uploaded because it needs to be longer, I guess. So I got some ideas on how to do that. I've actually added a page on the very last 4 kids to be able to draw their own underwater house.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah, place there to draw your own little underwater house type of thing. So maybe I'll put a couple pages in there for people to draw stuff. Anyway, so yeah, look for that. The merch, I'm going to be working on that next month, trying to get that figured out, why that's not working for us all. And then obviously, we got Patreon. We do have our Patreon members that do support us, that help us to be able to get the artwork out there, to invest in 3D printing and stuff along those lines. So maybe we'll have those for sale too. We'll see. We'll see how those look and how those play out. And once we get hands on a couple different people, go from there. But yeah.
I was just going to say, just the merch site that's up right now is working.
Yes.
It's just a new one that we're working on.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Thank you for correcting me.
There's
yes.
something you want. Yep.
Yes. There is. If you go to ASCcolony.com, click on merchandise, there is a store there. It works. All the stuff's great. You're wearing it. Mine's in the wash. You've got several cups back there, mugs and stuff like that back there from it. Adams keeps on getting rejected every time I try to do his, so I'm still trying to get his stuff, but that's just because it's Adam. But no, watch our social medias. Watch out for stuff we're doing. If you can help out in any way, please reach out. We're always looking for people to do interviews with. We're always looking for people to help out with this project, to grow it, to take the lead in different areas, and make this future real. So with that, we'll let you guys go. We hope you have a great evening, and we'll talk to you later.